It's the place to be. I I have been to Naples.
Oh,
Naples.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is beautiful. Wow.
I almost bought land on Marco Island about a million years ago, but
Oh my word. Wow.
that would have been so awesome. And yeah, no, that was bad decision time for me. Although I had purchased my timeshare just before we went out there, and I didn't know. I didn't have any idea. Like back then, there was a 7 year period. I'm sorry, there's a 5 year period where the real estate prices went up 7 times. That was like the year after I was there. Because when I was there, I'm like, how much is this? You can get a buildable lot on the on a canal that leads to the ocean for how much? And like I said, I had just made another purchase, so I didn't do it. But I was like,
Oh,
damn,
oh wow.
that would have been great. Oh well, best laid
Oh,
plans of
I
mice
think
and men.
I would say probably all of us could look back and say we woulda, coulda, shoulda on some
Oh
sort of
yeah,
investment.
yeah.
Hi, good morning, George.
Hey there. How are you this morning in
I'm doing just
warm
fine, thank you.
Florida? Yeah,
Yes. How are
absolutely.
you?
I hadn't even been outside yet. I'm just going crazy. Yeah, so I'm sort of waiting on Patty to join
I'm
us. She'll
here.
be there. Oh, hey,
Sorry, it was going round and round. I'm, I'm
how are
not sure.
you? Hadn't seen you in ages.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm kind of tired. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
feel behind,
The
but
legislature. Were you at the State House yesterday?
yes. Oh my God, running after legislators begging for money. Hmm.
Wow. Well, good.
Yeah. Okay,
Well, I just we
I'm
got
ready.
a few things going on today, and I'm good to go anytime you want to get started. And
Okay.
let me just say, this is recorded, and it's not financial advice. And
Oh,
Aaron's not going to be with us this morning talking about the crypto,
Okay,
but
okay.
I
I
can,
did make some notes on that. I saw your text.
yeah, and then so I can add a little bit, maybe Paul can, with that
Okay.
sort of thing. So, um,
Well, it looks
let's
like the
do it.
market's negative to this morning just since it opened up. Okay, it has been a negative week, except if you're in gold, silver, and the Russell 2000. So the Dow is down less than a percent, 0.67%. It lost 331 points. S&P down less than 1%, 0.94. Lost 60, almost 66 points. The NASDAQ down 1.09%. It lost 258 points, but the Russell 2000 is up. Since it's up, oh my God, I'm sorry, 2.17%. I wrote my notes so badly. I think for the year, since January 1st, the Russell is up more than 10% as of yesterday afternoon. So the small caps are doing good. Gold, it was at $4,933.70 this morning. So I don't know what it's doing right now, but that in 5 days is up 7.06%. That's $325. Silver did even better. It's up 9.32%, up $8.45. So this morning, last I looked, it was $99.18.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, it's doing good. Um, Selling puts on silver and gold is working if anybody sells puts. Um, Dollar is remaining weak. It's at 98.28, 28 cents. The 10 year is, pretty much flat, but it's above where we were last week, 4.235%. And WTI, it's flat, 60.51, but that's up a dollar, from last week. And the only news, sorry, I've been at the State House, so I haven't been watching the CNBC, but the biggest news I think was Wednesday when Trump announced the Greenland framework with NATO, whatever that is. It helped the market bounce because we were really down. Monday and Tuesday, the NASDAQ was below 23,000. Dow Jones went to 48,000, so it had lost almost 900 points. I didn't check on the S&P, but that helped the market bounce. And then yesterday was very positive too. Since Aaron's not on the call, I thought I'd look up something about Bitcoin. So I guess either this morning or last night, UBS decided to offer crypto trading for its wealthy clients, which helped Bitcoin bounce a little bit because of, I guess, new liquidity in the system. And next week, I understand there's going to be some kind of SEC and CFTC meeting, and their purpose of meeting is to coordinate oversight over crypto to clarify regulation, reduce compliance costs, and encourage more I don't even know what I wrote. I'm sorry.
Clarity.
Okay. Clarity. Okay, thanks. The overall market cap is 1.78 trillion as of this morning, and the key support level for Bitcoin should be about 87,400. That's all I got.
Thank you. Let me pivot back to the market for a second. Did you see where JP Morgan was going to move their
Sued.
precious metal desks out of the United States to Singapore? And what does
That
that
happened
mean?
in December.
Huh?
Paul would know more about that. Yeah.
That happened and was announced in December.
Yep.
Probably for
Yep.
market manipulation is what I would
Any
think.
any
No,
thoughts
what
on
I
that?
think some of what it was
Sure.
driven. So why I'm of the belief that silver is going to continue to go higher because there is, as of right now, there's approximately a $10 spread. So previously, New York and I would say London were kind of your centers around price discovery, right? That's where spot was traded. Well, Shanghai actually has spot trading. And if you look at the spread between US or other parts of the world and Shanghai, right now, silver on Shanghai spot is trading at about $111 per ounce. So
Buy
there's
low,
that
sell
opportunity.
high. Buy
More
Yeah, well,
low, sell
it's
high.
speculation.
it's 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 an arbitrage opportunity, right?
What?
It's going to be
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
okay. Bye bye. Um,
Paul, how does that work as it relates to, let's say, a US investor in the FX? Or how does one purchase it on the Shanghai exchange? And is it a dollar denominated
That's a
currency for that purchase?
question. I've just been
don't
looking up
know.
on it. When JP Morgan announced
I just
that they were moving the desk, I mean, you could do a quick search. I'm pretty sure it's denominated in dollars still. Shanghai silver price in dollars.
Mhm.
So there is silver price.
I don't know that the
well,
banks would
Well,
care if it's
I
an
haven't heard of
arbitrage on the currency too.
probably.
They can do that.
I haven't heard a new high or a new goal that they think silver will hit, but I heard 5,400 for gold.
Gold. Wow.
Right
Well,
now,
I,
this is a website, goldsilver.ai. Metal prices, Shanghai silver price is $111 111.6 USD per ounce.
okay.
Mm.
So it's a $12 premium, roughly, from US.
Well, I just
Uh,
thought I'd throw it out there. I really didn't want to go down that hole too far, but I think that's interesting that you'd bring that up and as always, Reva asks the hard questions.
Well, I would almost view it as like we're here talking about crypto, and I know that Trump signed the executive order capping credit card rates or asking the banks to cap credit card rates at 10%. I actually see that as being a positive for DeFi, right? Because if banks don't comply, well, then all of a sudden it's like, well, all right, well, maybe we can borrow on DeFi, right? And those are going to have more attractive rates. So maybe that's something to steer people in that direction. But it's just Shanghai having a price for spot silver, to me, that's a sign that, hey, we're moving to a decentralized system where there will be, global prices for some of this stuff.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, let me
That
just
credit card move
we're gonna do
was.
let me do I have very little on World Liberty Finance, but there was a offshoot of World Liberty called SC Financial Technologies. And I don't think SC stands for South Carolina, but they signed that affiliate of World Liberty signed a deal with Pakistan, of all places, to delve into some DeFi and some payment rails for that country to enter into the digital world, payments world. So I thought that was kind of interesting and a little bit odd, but I did think that it was interesting that the CEO of this affiliate is a guy named Zach Witkoff. Does that name ring a bell to anybody? Maybe not the
Steve
Zach part.
Witkoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the guy. Steve was, I think Steve was at World Economic Forum, and I think him and Kushner are in the process of, right after Davos, I think that they could have flown to Russia to try to iron out this whole peace accord
Ukraine thing, yeah.
between
That's exactly
between
right.
Ukraine and
So
and,
this
and
is the
China.
son. This is the son of the negotiator for the United States in the Ukraine-Russian uh, fiasco.
And they're based in New York. And my
They
understanding is the
are.
way the Crofts got to Trump is they were the ones who first presented to Trump and his family the idea of issuing their meme coins right before the inauguration. And then Trump loved it so much, got them engaged in all kinds of things related to crypto and his initiatives there, and then hired the father as the envoy
That's
for,
it.
yeah, right.
More
To
Interesting.
personal
say that
wealth building. Yeah.
It's a wicked web up there in New York and DC.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be creating new opportunities for us. It's personal inflow of cash. No.
Well, unless you're invested in, no, I don't think it'll impact whether you are in that coin or not. So, okay. Well,
Well, unless you bought it day one, then
yeah,
you would have
there you
lost
go.
about 90% of your value.
All right. Well, why don't
actually,
we're going to pivot.
who
Yeah.
would know about I'm looking on the World Liberty Financial website. Brandy's photo is there, and
Yeah.
Brandy probably interacts with the Witkoffs because Stephen, Zach, and Alex are all a part of the executive team
Yes.
for World Liberty Financial. So
Correct.
Brandy Reynolds would know.
Okay. Well, I'm looking back at January 23rd, the date of the official Trump. It was $34.71.
The Trump meme
And
coin.
yes, and today it's $4.82. It's a straight, almost down a mountain.
Mm.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't
Well,
invest in meme coins.
all right.
No.
I did want to pivot to the Clarity Act, but I wanted to see if we could put that on hold one quick second to bring in Demetriel, if you're ready, Demetriel, to talk a little bit about the predictive markets. And I mean, the meat of the call is the Clarity Act, trying to get some wrap your head around that um, going on in DC. But the predictive market are kind of an interesting sideline, if you will. And I asked Demetriel if he'd sort of share with us a little bit about some news that has hit the forefront of the predictive market with some news that he'll break to us, and not break to us, but he'll go over it a little bit and talk about how South Carolina plays into this market.
Hey everybody. Yeah, George reached out to me yesterday, asked me kind of research a little bit on predictive prediction markets and how they work and what's going on in South Carolina with them. So I'm sure you've all probably heard of it. The major player in the market, I would say, is Robinhood. And prediction markets, what they basically do is kind of like in the name prediction. They're trying to predict the outcome of certain events. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind are sporting events, which is what they're mainly in right now. But you can also buy, they call them contracts, kind of like options, and they expire obviously at the end of the event. So you if you have a contract on the who's playing in the I don't know, the Rams and the Eagles football game. You can predict who you think is going to win.
Yeah.
And each contract, if you win, if you place the correct prediction, they don't call it a bet because, gambling and betting is obviously not legal in all the states. So this is kind of how they get around it with these prediction markets. But if you place a contract that the Eagles win and they do win, each contract that you have is worth $1. And if you lose, then you get nothing.
Right.
You lose it
And
all. Yeah.
you lose it all. Yep. But the interesting thing to me is that they are getting to other events, such as political events, the outcome of presidential races, local races, also weather events. So, is it going to snow in South Carolina on Monday?
Yeah.
There might be a prediction market for that you could bet or place a contract on. Um, and there's real money getting into this because Robinhood, they've been very aggressive. And I read an article, I couldn't find it, but I did see a headline that I believe JP Morgan is going to start getting into it as well. Um, but that's pretty much it as far as I know. I haven't done one of these. I have a Robinhood account. I'm sure most of y'all also have one, but I haven't tried this out myself. So if anybody has, we'd love to hear your feedback and see what you
I
thought
did.
about it. Oh,
I did it
I should
during
have
the
known you had, Patsy. Patty.
I think it was the US Open or Wimbledon. So
Okay.
they had Alcaraz and what's the Stringer?
No,
Yeah,
center
Sinner,
and
thank you.
Alcatraz. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so they would change it up, and Djokovic was thrown in there when he made it to like the second round. So it's constantly changing. You have to keep up with um, what you're buying because it doesn't stay the same. So when Djokovic got knocked out, they removed Djokovic, so it changes the percentage. So I
Mm-hmm.
won one and I lost one, and so if you put in like $50 and it looks like wow, I could win $95 as they're getting closer to the end of the tournament. I hung in there. I was like, oh, I'm gonna win $100.
Right.
I lost all 50. Yeah. I
Greed.
picked the wrong guy. But
Greed.
it is super easy to do. And I find that Robinhood is constantly touching base to get you to do it, to join in on the predictive market. Yeah.
And I don't
So,
know if any of y'all follow the Robinhood stock itself, but it has really appreciated over the last year with
Crazy.
the
Yeah.
onboarding of these prediction markets because I
yeah.
believe it's one of their fastest growing revenue lines.
Yeah. And I
Billions
will
of
say
contracts
this.
have been traded.
Yeah. And I think the predictive market hit an all-time high last week in terms of
Wow.
dollars traded. Did I see that in that article? $181 million in a week or day or something like that
Right.
That's
It
time
was
crazy.
frame. And then, but let me mention this in South Carolina, there's a bill in the House to create a couple of different betting opportunities. One is a casino on 95 in the Santee area that's a physical presence. Then the other is the looking at the predictive markets because FanDuel and others are already offering these predictive markets in South Carolina. And there is a bill to look at legalizing that because the federal government has, I believe, already approved them. So
right.
I
hmm
don't think I think we're in great territory right now, but they're trying to clarify at the state level. Les, do you want to add anything to that? Because that was part of the
Well,
call.
something you want to keep track of in that discussion is the difference between Class 2 and Class 3 gaming. So places like Las Vegas have Class 3 gaming. That means that the house is part of the game. So if you play blackjack or something like that, where the house has odds and they're playing against you, that's Class 3 gaming. Lots of states have Class 2 gaming, and Class 2 gaming is something like poker, where the dealer is not really in the game. The dealer's making sure that the game is run appropriately and they're just collecting a fee, but the dealer is not a player in the game. They are simply setting the table so that everybody else knows that there's no cheating going on. So if you're looking through what the bills are saying, you want to pay close attention to whether or not they're allowing class 2 or class 3 gaming. And a physical casino is going to allow class 3 gaming. And that's where you really start jumping over what the federal government has done in many cases, because they've sort of opened up the field for class 2 gaming, which means you can bet on baseball games and basketball games because they want to collect revenue from all the sporting events and things.
Yeah, so they're already doing it, and the state's not collecting any proceeds from it. So that's kind of it's all about the
Well,
money.
what
Yeah,
And
about,
and I
I
this
think
mean,
soccer.
they've got to be collecting gains. I mean, I mean, if you're making money on it, you're claiming a capital gain at some point or another. I mean, so I think that, how are they going to regulate it? I think the question is, how are they going to regulate it to get more revenue out of it? Because, with the effort to try to get rid of the income tax, I mean, they're looking for new revenue streams. So is it fair to tax it further, than simply a trading process that is regulated at the federal level? That's my question right now.
I don't want
Yeah.
to take up George's whole call, but I've
Yeah.
got a whole set of documents on how sports betting can be handled for the government to actually collect something that we can talk about in some other forum.
Okay.
I
Well,
believe North Carolina, they I don't know if it's been recently, but I know maybe the last year or two, they've approved online gambling, and they have increased a lot of revenue for the state by doing that. I've seen it on, I forgot the name of the show, but they were talking about, is South Carolina going to do it now that North
uh,
Carolina has done it?
North
So,
Carolina has done
Well,
it.
I
Yeah.
can give you an
yeah.
update on that. So there's a
Sure.
casino bill that's got out of House Ways and Means last year. It's been on the calendar um, since the end of session, and they've adjourned debate on it twice since we've been in session for 2 weeks. There's an amendment to spread out how proceeds could go to help conservation and this, that, and the other from the fees that are generated. But so far, most legislators, or at least word on the street in the lobby, is only Orangeburg is going to benefit, and the other legislators are like, why should I stick my neck out if I'm from the upstate, make the Bible Belt people upset with me when I can't guarantee that Greenville or Pickens or Oconee is going to benefit? So it may not move for about a month. They're trying to figure out, what to do. And then yesterday, the Equine Advancement Act, which would allow Aiken and other places to do horse racing and establish a new commission specifically for horse racing. It did get out of subcommittee, and it'll be on Senate Finance the first week of February. And most likely that bill will pass this year. So we will have some kind of horse racing gambling.
And
That's got a long way to go, but yeah.
all these gambling things are also screaming for a permission digital ledger to handle the accounting, because that way you know that you have solidified what the bet is and you know what the payout is. It's easier to do that way. And it also keeps all the books clean when you have to deal with a regulator.
And who's screaming for that? That's the first I've heard of that.
I'm saying that the process is,
Oh, I
because if
got
you
you. I
come in and
see.
you say, how am I going to show the regulators that I'm not
Got it.
skimming? Well, the easy way to do that is with a permission digital
Yeah.
ledger. And then you have an account for every one of the people who have decided that they're going to bet, and you can show all the transactions and they're immutable.
Right.
That's right.
Same argument we
All
have in
right.
a lot of
Well,
cases. Yeah.
yeah, let's why don't we flip over to the Clarity Act, which is kind of the bulk of the call here. We're at about 10 o'clock. And so why don't we take 15, 10 minutes, something like that, and then kind of wrap it up and go get some firewood and some milk and bread for the oncoming onslaught. The what do they call it? Winter
Armageddon,
Armageddon.
end of the
Wintergeddon,
world. It's the end of the world.
Wintergeddon.
Wintergeddon.
Yeah. All right. So I've asked Reba
Snowmageddon.
yeah. So,
No, again, I like it. Yeah.
all right. So I've asked Reba to sort of help clarify what's going on with the Clarity Act, which kind of got derailed, I guess, in the Senate banking. But there, as we know, the Clarity Act's under two Senate subcommittees, and one's agriculture, one is Senate banking. It seems to be a little more activity and with clarity in the agricultural committee, and the banking committee is kind of, I don't know, crazy right now, right, Reba? Kind of
I think
crazy.
I think that's an apt description, George.
It's a mess.
Well, I don't have to I don't think I have to digress into what happened with the Senate Banking Committee. I think we're all familiar with what happened when Coinbase's CEO Brian Armstrong stuck himself out there to say that he wasn't going to support that version of the bill. So then here we are with the Banking Senate Committee stalled on it, at least for now, and the Ag Committee having moved forward on its markup. It released it this past Wednesday. It's 161 pages. I've
Wow.
glanced at it, and I can tell you that it will require a deep dive for me to be able to provide any kind of expert input on it, except that I did some research on what others have been saying, and there's, I would say, 6 top line key takeaways. So first of all, it grants the CFTC authority over both cash and spot transactions involving digital commodities. And that's nothing new. We knew that that's where the line of demarcation was going to be drawn between the CFTC and the SEC. It also excludes stablecoins from the CFTC oversight. That also is something that was expected because of the Genius Act, declaring that stablecoins are neither commodities nor securities, so they wouldn't be governed by that kind of construct. And then the third thing that it does is it brings the meme coins into the definition of network tokens. And then how that will play out is something I need to further dig into. But it seems like if those coins are just part of the network governance, then transactions on them might not be subject to the CFTC oversight. Then it
Wow.
also, yeah,
Yeah.
to be, as I said, my expertise is weak on this. And there's going to be, the next point is there's going to be ad hoc CFTC governance on non-fungible tokens, NFTs, as well as consumptive tokens. So
Good.
that would maybe encompass things like tokens that give you rights to, let's say, tickets to a certain sporting event. Who knows? But that's another area that's going to enable the CFTC to have some oversight. And then the next thing that it does is it requires futures commission merchants, which are FCMs. They have to use qualified custodians if they're going to hold digital assets, if they're going to transact in digital assets. And then the last part of it is that there's going to be an expedited registration process for exchanges dealing with digital commodities, exchanges and brokers and dealers and the like. So I don't know what expedited means, but we all know that the process by which one gets regulatory approval to set up new types of regulated activities, such as exchanges and brokerages and like, typically takes quite some time. So there's going to have to be a process based on this mandate if this bill moves forward.
Are
So
you
this is
saying that you pay a higher fee if you want to be expedited?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a
Okay,
very good
so
question.
they have considered that for environmental permits in South Carolina. I don't think we ever passed it, but it basically means if you can pay $100,000, we're going to approve your whatever environmental permit project. Yeah. Within 30 days as opposed to 90 days. And so if a company has the money to do it and they're, eager to get going, that was under consideration. I don't think we ever passed it. They just did not think that was a good idea, but it basically pay to play. Yeah.
Yeah. Pay to get to the top of the line, the front of the line.
Like Trump's $1 million coin to get to the front of the immigration line.
Yes.
Fast
$1
pass.
million or $5 million. I don't know.
Yes. Right. Right. So that is a good question. I do not know. But one thing that I know is that this is not the definitive act, so to speak, Clarity Act. So the next thing that would happen is that this would have to pass out of the ag. Separately, we would have to have the Senate Banking Committee have their whatever version they're going to find amenable to and acceptable to Brian Armstrong, let's say, that has to pass out of the Senate Banking Committee. And then ultimately the Senate has to pass it, and then it goes back to the House. The House has to either mark it up or pass it as it is, and then there would be the final vote. So this is a long haul.
So a couple of things. One, I thought there was a pushback from Coinbase on the staking, and not staking, but the stable coin rewards.
Yes. That's what is governed by the securities laws, and that would be governed by the CFTC. So that is what the big issue that's contentious in the Senate Banking Committee's negotiations with the industry.
Okay. And don't know why it's so big in Senate banking, but not in agriculture, but that's another discussion. But I did understand that the Senate Banking Committee may pivot away from this bill or this markup, whatever you want to call it, the Clarity Act, and move into the affordable housing
Yeah.
initiative that the president has mentioned several times now and work on that for a month or two because it's more relevant to the American public than stable coins or any kind of crypto legislation. So anyway, I think they're gonna pivot from that, and that just basically puts it all on hold.
I think that that's a really good assessment of it, George.
Yeah,
I mean, things could change. And, Armstrong is now out there saying we're working on it on a bipartisan basis. And then even the administration is coming out there saying we're going to get a bill passed. And Trump himself said it's coming very soon. I think your assessment is more accurate, George.
Yeah,
Just ask a question.
Sure.
So, I mean, like New York Stock Exchange and all these places that are already just moving forward that are saying that, later this year, you're already going to have tokenized equities and all that stuff. How does that happen if we don't get a law passed?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question as well. So the New York Stock Exchange, as you know, already transacts, or governs the exchanges and facilitates the exchanges of securities. So the way that they're envisioning doing tokenization is it's an exact replica of the underlying security. So based upon that analysis, if indeed that's correct, then just tokenizing something that's already security would be just another version of that security. If they change the features in the tokenization version, then that's a new security. And then that likely would have to go through SEC clearance.
Yeah. Wow.
It's some of the talks at Davos. I mean, Larry Fink and all the crypto executives they were speaking pretty confident, like this stuff is moving forward later this year. And so I maybe we're just seeing some political theater play out here. I don't know, but
I think it's real. I think it's real in that lane in which they're tokenizing and not making any changes to the features of the underlying stock, which is listed, which is a security. That they can start doing right now.
Okay.
But to your point about Larry Fink, and I think it broadly applies to the whole financial industry, especially the big players. They're working on this. They have teams working on this on the tech side, on the brokerage side, on the investment manager side. They're just not coming out there and saying it because, of course, from a competitive perspective, they want to be able to, build something and be able to be the first to launch in their respective fields. So I don't think we're going to hear anything until they're really, really close to putting something out there for consumption.
Wow.
Reba, by your comment of changing the underlying security or the underlying share, I mean, does that mean that if that token automatically triggers a dividend, that might be paid, more promptly, or
Yeah.
even on, I mean, who knows? I mean, they could
Weekly.
potentially pay dividends on daily, returns if
Yeah.
they see it moving up. I mean, get contracts and what you do with them. Is that an example of having to regulate it again?
Well, the short answer is I don't know, but the way I would analyze it is that if the underlying rules, the SEC rules about declaring a dividend and the date in which the dividend is eligible for payout, those
That would
rules would not
that
change
wouldn't change. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
if the token exactly mirrors the underlying. Yeah. So then it's just a question about how it's manifest via the tech, via the settlement, all that. But it wouldn't change the underlying rights to the dividend.
Yeah, and
Same with
then
voting rights, proxy voting rights, all that kind of stuff. If the tokenized version is exactly mirroring the rights underlying the other one, I don't think it would be subject to that additional security processing,
so the,
SEC approval process.
the other
I'm just
question
amazed.
this raises in my mind is obviously go back to Dole Food case, which demonstrated that there were like I think several million shares that were rehypothecated
Yeah.
kind of came together. I mean, does this establish potentially a precedent, I guess, for I mean, if all the different brokerage houses have or the issuers have a certain amount of shares that they maintain or they're trading, I mean, does this give us an audit process potentially? Say, okay, yeah, I mean,
Mm.
Unilever has
It's
3 million more shares than they're supposed to have based on their registration in Delaware, wherever they're registered.
Yeah, so on that point, the way that would work, Dennis, is that it's still incumbent upon the issuer of the shares to make sure that they track the amount of shares that are authorized and outstanding. And then when those shares are issued into the market or traded in the market, they have to represent what has been registered with the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that's tokenized on top of that follows whatever processes they put in place to ensure that. And you're right, there have been instances in which the underlying issuer, let's say Dole, issued too many shares. Or it used to be, because I was directly involved in this with GLD, the gold ETF.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the SEC in person in Washington and advocated for the SEC agreeing that we could recycle the shares because the construct of an ETF is that you issue shares and then you redeem shares. So if someone wants to sell their shares, there's this whole concept about you have the authorized participants who can issue and redeem blocks of shares. And that provides the liquidity in the market and it also enables NAV to match the underlying value. Anyway, that's a long way of explaining that. The SEC finally did approve of being able to recycle those shares instead of having to issue new shares every single time that someone would redeem. So
Interesting.
that clarified and actually solved a big problem because BlackRock at one time violated that rule and had to pay a fine.
Okay.
It was
Interesting.
an oversight.
Well,
Well,
let's
George, if I may, real quickly,
yeah,
I
real
mean, I'm going to
quickly.
use this to segue into a couple of things I posted in the chat. Um, Reba, there is a speaker call announcement for our event March 2nd. And to anybody else that may be interested in participating and speaking at the conference at March 2nd. And there's also a sponsor link in there, just with a overview of what we're looking for and who should sponsor this event. And George, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you.
Dennis,
Well,
you have it in the chat, you say?
It's just
in
in
the
the chat,
chat.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So
And they're just
I
links to my
did want to
Dropbox.
mention, Dennis, that Kansas has offered a bill to Bitcoin reserve bill is going to be created in the Senate of Kansas. So I know you're kind of watching that. Maybe that's a template we can duplicate here in South Carolina. So just FYI, that on your radar. The other one is I wanted
Well,
to.
we do have a strategic reserve bill filed in
Say
South
again.
Carolina. We do have a strategic reserve bill filed in South
Yeah.
Carolina. Jordan Pace filed that, and actually looking for a sponsor to really push that bill right now. And we've had conversations with a couple
Well, you
of
might say
custodians.
this is what Kansas. Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Let's get it going. So
Okay.
the other one, I just want to touch on Davos for a second. I was going to talk about Japan, but I think we don't have time. And I do want to mention maybe having a call that's a little bit different. But let's first of all, anybody want to give us a takeaway from the Davos um conference that happened this week? Anybody want to say about Trump or anybody want to say anything about
I'd say the global
that
agenda
poor
has been
governor from
soundly
California?
defeated. Yeah, the global agenda has been soundly defeated. I mean, I mean, Greenland is center stage right now for strategic effects. I don't think there's any question about that. And that's where the playing field's going to be.
Yeah, a few things. Number one, Jamie Dimon calling everybody out, pretty much saying that you guys haven't done a good job of improving the world, right? He had his interview, I think, with The Economist on that. Number two, the German chancellor, what's his name,
Merch, yeah.
Merz, he pretty much he admitted that the EU's a failure. And I've read some articles, and I think I've shared in the chat around this geopolitical strategist that I'd followed that, who looks at the world through population demographics and natural resources. And he was predicting, the downfall of Europe, right? Because of just demographics that no longer work and these systems that have been top heavy. They've just run out of people. And so 2026 Davos was, I think, effectively the funeral for and the estate sale for globalism.
Right. I think Trump called it out as well. And anybody wants to speak about what Lucknick said when he was his 2 minutes of glory on X?
What did he say?
He said basically that the globalist experiment is dead, that if you aren't looking after your own country and you don't create borders and you don't watch your culture, you will and you offshore your manufacturing and your resources from which your ability to exist, you will degrade the whole country that you live in, and you will be subject to others that control those particular entities, and that country is China. And that's basically what he said in about 2 minutes, more eloquently than I said it, but with not as much vigor. But
We're seeing
anyway,
it on
that's
the
what
northern
You
Lucky
border.
said it
said.
well, George.
Thank you.
So the concept is just take care of yourself. I don't think that does not match the astrology. Let me just say
It's
that
America.
That's
is
not
not.
possible.
It's not.
It's just not
I don't
possible.
think that's the direction we're going. They can say that all they want,
Yeah.
but that is not the direction we're going. Yeah.
What does the astrology tell you, Patricia?
Well, let's see. Everything was all the planets, there were like 8 planets concentrated in Capricorn, which is power, money, politics. and they have just shifted over to Aquarius, which is people. And Uranus is now moving forward, which is change. Pluto is in Aquarius, which is fundamental change, taking things down to the ground level, breaking everything up to build it back up over the next 18 years, 14 years, I think.
That sounds right.
What is that not exactly what we're talking
That's
about?
what
I
we
mean,
said.
that's
Yeah.
But
that's
it's about the people. It's not about concentrating power at the top of America is going to be number one, and it's more about the uprising of people, a revolution like the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and absolute change. I don't think it's hey, we got to take care of America and we're not concerned about anybody else.
And how's
no,
that possible? I know it's easy to say that globalism is dead or dying, but in practicality, how can you do that? How are you going to do that? The United States cannot produce everything that it needs. No country
No.
can. No society can.
We
No
can't
culture
even
can.
produce an iPhone that everybody wants.
Yeah.
But we
It just
can't
don't.
produce all the food that we want. There's certain foods that America
Right.
just doesn't have the ability
No.
to
Exactly.
harvest, to seed or harvest.
The
So
selfish way of thinking of
I think it sounds good.
America's, that is over. That is
It's not
over. And
practical.
yeah, but
it seems like Trump is
you
trying to bring that selfish kind of thinking back, but it's
no,
not
but
going to stick.
And
that's exactly that selfish thinking is exactly what dissolved Europe and got it to the current point where it is. You had these bureaucrats in Brussels that were calling the shots, and the entire culture of Europe basically dissolved. I mean, you have countries where the natives are now the minority, and
And declining birth rates on top of that.
what's that?
And declining birth rates on top of that.
Exactly, and so that's why they imported all these people. So it's not about it's not about taking a selfish interest. It's about looking at it from the lens of helping out, solving your problems internally first before you think about you think about global interests and these global elites. I think that's the whole point of it.
But I think it's more nuanced and complicated, Paul, because, for example, you now have Chinese billionaires basically seeding their entire family population in the US with US mothers.
Yep.
And they have like hundreds of children.
Yep.
Hmm.
And they're all.
So I don't think it's
And
such
they've
an
never been,
thing.
they've never set foot in an American schoolroom. They're being educated in China,
They're not
and
assimilating.
but they're citizens.
God.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They're like sending their sperm over here?
No, sending birth mothers.
Birth mothers. Interesting.
Yeah. And then they have children in the US.
Yep, which are
Hundreds of them.
automatically citizens, and they can bring their parents over as citizens. Oh, it's a mess. But anyway,
So
we're
that's
not
the
looking
whole
after
birthright
ourselves, Patty.
citizenship argument,
Well,
is
I
it
think
not?
It's using
okay.
our.
Yeah,
It's using
Paul, it is.
Well, this is not the purpose of this call, but I did want to just pull it out there.
No, but I do think
heated.
we can circle it back around to cryptocurrency and democratization of banking and people having access to money to buy food and just survive. And I think that's the direction we're going. It's going to be more helpful to all people, not just the wealthy few who hang out in Capricorn.
All right.
Would
Things
agree with
are
that.
going to
I think
take off
that's
in
the whole
April.
point.
Yeah,
I think
April
that's
26th. I think when
You moved,
Uranus
Pluto?
moves back into Gemini, we'll blame George if things go sideways. He's a
That's
Gemini.
right.
But I think technology and everything is just going to accelerate for the next 7 years. And just a final thought on Trump. He's trying to bring all this manufacturing back. And that is like old-fashioned thinking.
No.
The Industrial Revolution is over. We're not going to do that again. That is old-fashioned. Everything is going to be related to technology development. Yeah.
All right.
AI and
well,
robotics.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
exactly the point. So how do
Yeah.
you bring back manufacturing without having
We're not
to,
going to.
I mean, we're not
We're
trying to
not
bring back.
going to. American people don't want to work in a factory like that.
You
Don't
don't
That's
need,
why,
robots? That's
yeah.
where the
you do not,
automation.
you don't need human beings working anymore.
No.
Going to be little
I,
robots. Yeah.
All right.
just an example of what I saw at CES. Okay, you know, you're not going to bring the shoe manufacturers back from you know Central
Dublin.
America or
Mm.
China or whatever. Okay,
Mm.
what you're going to do is you're going to have a complete change in the process of shoes and how they're fitted, and have 3D printing that you stick your foot into a printer and it forms the shoe around your foot. I mean, it's amazing, that we're at that level already. But that's using the technologies of applied manufacturing, obviously, 3D printing, all the different technologies, that go into making that shoe. So manufacturing processes are going to change, dramatically. And I think that's really what they're talking about, bringing more of that, more offshore, manufacturing back in the States, so that, if they're going to be building new factories here, they're going to be building the state-of-the-art factories for the products that they're producing potentially overseas right now. I think that's where we see the quantum shift.
All right.
Um,
So
And
and
it's
let me
going to
just
be,
yeah,
go
real
ahead,
quick, I
Reeve.
want
I'm
to
sorry.
mention,
We're gonna wrap this baby up.
less published, in another group, the interview that Mike Covert did with Tom Davis on certain bills, and he gets into some of the data center statutes that have been filed to try to regulate data centers differently from other manufacturing or other focus. I mean, from that standpoint.
Well,
So, they're both designed to, in one case, from the bills I'm looking at, Patty, it looks like they've resurrected after trying to sunset data center incentives, which we successfully fought last year. And that bill is now back in play. Also, regulating water consumption. Looking at it from the standpoint of what's going on down in Colleton County with the Ace Basin. It does get in that interview does get into some of the recognition of new technologies, and possibly some of the language that we have in our our Innovation Act. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. These are restrictive policies, and based on the federal government's position right now in the executive order, they may not even be. I mean, they may be legal, but they may not be legal from that standpoint, given their restrictive covenants and potentially
okay.
making it longer and harder to get a permit. So, and while they
Yeah.
distinguish it from manufacturing, that's South Carolina commerce. Bottom line, I
Put
mean, it's
I
all
Yeah.
put
about
that
manufacturing.
Data
interview.
centers.
I put that
Mm.
interview in one of the threads. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Dennis. And we're going to talk about that subject a little later. But the last thing I want to ask is, I don't ever do this, but we do have an election coming up for governor, and I think I'd like to ask one of the candidates, specifically Alan Wilson, because he seems to be available. Nancy Mace is nowhere to be seen in my world, but anyway. But Alan
Went
Wilson
to the
seems to be
airport.
around,
Crazy Nancy Mace. Crazy
and
Mace.
so what I'm asking is, would we be interested in asking Alan Wilson to join this call on a Friday at 9:30 and speak about the campaign, but specifically try to focus in on crypto legislation, and particularly data centers and energy consumption. Not so worried
Mhm.
about the technology with water or noise, because those emerging technologies pretty much are solving those things. So we don't need to go down that path. It's how we get the energy and how that plays into um, the data center location is important. So I'm just asking if you want to give me a head nod, or you want to put a thumbs up, or you want to email me or text me. Please do, and let me know if you might be interested in inviting, maybe in a week or a couple of weeks.
Us.
First of all, Alan Wilson to join us. I see something going up there with that
Yeah.
little.
I think
We're
it'd be
actually,
interesting. Yeah.
I
yes.
think
Jordan,
the answer is yes, but I would also suggest that you send an invite to the other candidates.
Ralph Norman, I think he's pouring his own money into the campaign, and I've heard he's like a contender now.
Huh.
My
So,
bad.
I mean,
Alan's gonna be
they
our
can
guest at
ignore
the
you or
next.
they can reject it, but I would at
Yeah.
least extend an
I will throw
invitation
it out
to
to
them.
all of them. And okay, so I hear that that's a possibility
Hmm.
to maybe pivot a little
Alan's
bit from the usual discussion and see what happens.
Yep.
Okay.
Alan's supposed
We
to be our
promise to
guest at
be
the next
polite.
Crypto Monday. So
Well, Paul, I mean, George, I'll just share. I mean, obviously, we know from our Crypto Mondays and our meetings that all the candidates, recognize that digital assets are an area most of them are short in their understanding of it, even if they own crypto or Bitcoin. There's still questions in their mind. So where we've been successful with Crypto Monday, and I think that we could really expand that focus here is really as an education program and really a give and take. Let's talk about what you know. Let's talk about what we know. Let's use it as a process to expand the understanding of this industry and how it impacts really everything. I mean, because it really has been missed by South Carolina Commerce. We're having conversations right now with some of the folks there on how technology really. I mean, they came
Right.
out with a technology innovation plan back in 2017.
Yeah.
Where's that gone? I mean, pure and simple. And
So
how did you miss payments?
I
As
think
part of
that
the
would be
underlying
awesome to
structure.
ask Alan Wilson, see if we can maybe get some information from him and maybe dive down that hole and see what we can come up with. Because I'd
Yeah.
like to wrap this puppy up. My bread and milk's getting sour there at the grocery store. So let's
Get
get
the
on
hedge,
with
they're getting the
Okay.
toilet paper ahead of you, mate.
George, the next 3 weeks I won't be able to participate. So
Boo.
y'all enjoy. I'm
Boo.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. We'll
Conflicts.
miss you. All
Yeah.
right,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Have a great weekend.
Call
Thank
Okay.
Thank you,
you.
you too.
All right,
Thank
everybody.
you.
at
All
40.
right. Bye bye.